Hello, this is Chris Farmer from UK Liberty Party. Thank you for coming.
Okay, Chris. Thanks for that very short introduction.
Yes, slight tricky problem with my tech.
Right. You ready to go?
No, because my tech isn't changing. My tech is changing here, but it's not changing on the screen. Stand by. Okay. Okay, we're working again now.
All right. Okay.
Come
Okay,
to
Chris,
start.
take it away.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Chris Farmer from UK Liberty Party. Thank you for coming. Houston, we have a problem. More and more, day by day, a small number of politicians, scientists, and officials are gaining incredible powers to dictate to us what we can and cannot do, what we can say, what we can read, what we can think, what we can watch, and even what we laugh at. Politicians are now telling us where we can go, who we can see. They decide what can and cannot be reported upon, which organizations can and cannot be criticized. Something is definitely wrong with our democracy, and we think we know what it is. We think it's bad government. If this process is left unchecked, then it will be the cause of a lot of suffering over the next couple of months and years. Therefore, I believe that we, you, me, should stop the rot. At UK Liberty, we stand on the belief that the true purpose of government is to protect the following principles: freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom to engage in trade. We say that the freedom to act in the pursuit of our own values and happiness is everyone's natural right, and that a proper government exists in order to uphold and to protect our rights. The government is currently using the current crisis to extend its powers, and it's become an anti-democratic and dangerous government. It's time for the people, that's you, me, we, to push back against this attack on our freedoms. Question: how can we defend political freedoms of the British people against an increasingly authoritarian government? Answer: by going back to first principles. An axiom is a self-evident truth, something that stands on its own without need of proof. Now, we would like to claim that it's axiomatic, that we are each born with innate rights and certain freedoms by the mere fact that we're alive, born into the UK. That entitles us to certain rights: freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom to trade, freedom to vote. And in my belief also, freedom to have an unblocked airway. If we say the right to life is the first and primary right, and the first thing that life requires is oxygen, then I believe I've got the right to an unblocked airway. There is no one who is empowered to block my airway, not even Boris Johnson. The purpose of government is to secure political freedoms. Only under the condition of securing political freedoms can the other functions of government then successfully be pursued. Other functions of government include the health service, running the economy, running education, running the army, and other such factors. But what we're seeing here is that political freedom is being crushed in exchange for the health service, Not only the political freedoms, but our economic life is being crushed in favor of the health service. Education is being crushed in favor of the health service. In fact, certain portions of the health service is being crushed for COVID. Crushed for COVID, crikey. Our mental health is being crushed for COVID. So there is an imbalance going on and has been going on for the last year. We are now sacrificing our freedoms to save the NHS, which is an inversion of the government's primary function. The government's primary purpose is not to save lives, nor to save the NHS. The government's primary purpose is the protection of individual liberties, individual freedoms, and any government that violates those rights is a bad government and must either change or be changed. The primary purpose of government is to protect freedoms. The purpose of government is to protect our freedoms, even in the face of health risks. Any government that fails to protect our freedoms is acting in violation of its purpose. Now, why is this happening? I don't know why it's happening. I've got three theories. The first one is that the politicians have forgotten what politics is for. They think politics is for saving lives. It isn't. Politics is for saving freedom. And many governments have gone to war in the past in order to protect our freedoms. Second World War, First World War would come as an example. In the Second World War, many lives were lost in the vigorous attempt to protect our freedoms. But now we are destroying our freedoms in order to preserve life. So there's an inversion there. I'm not sure if the politicians have simply forgot what their job is. My other theory is that they've been bounced by the scientists. The scientists, meaning the medical community, have bounced the politicians by giving them doomsday scenarios, something that a politician could never live with. And Boris has buckled under the pressure put upon him by scientists. There is a third, more dangerous theory, which is it's all being done on purpose. You may have heard of the idea that the Great Reset, which is a global organization, a global trend, I should say. And when Boris uses the word build back better, that is the slogan given to him from Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, and that's part of the Great Reset. I don't know which one of these three is true. Could be it's a piece of all of them. It could be that it's something else I've not thought of, but something is wrong. The UK government is either misguided, wrong, or malicious. We don't know which one this is, but we're learning step by step. I think we should be ready to reassert our fundamental rights. I think the British public are coming to the end of the line and we need to reassert our rights. We aim to limit the power of, so say, public servants. The civil service and MPs are supposed to be public servants. The police are supposed to be public servants. Their role is to serve us, not to rule over us. We've taken 400 years to gain our freedoms. And it seems to me that we've gone back 400 years, all the way back to 1650. It seems like we've got Oliver Cromwell back in charge. I believe that now is the time for non-compliance, because all we need to do to stop this is to say no. I'm saying no to violations of my liberties. Personally, I'm going to say no to face masks. I'm going to say no to lockdowns, and every other invasion of my liberty I'm going to say no to, because I believe peaceful non-compliance, I'll say that again, peaceful non-compliance is all that is required to put an end to this madness. This is the basic problem. Political freedom is being lost, and it's being lost in order to keep the health service going. This is an error. Thank you. Before I stop this presentation, I saw something on YouTube coming from the House of Commons. I don't see much good coming from the House of Commons recently, but I have seen something which I'd just like to show you. This is Steve Baker. You might know Steve Baker, terrific guy. This is what he said in the House of Commons yesterday. I'm just going to see if this works.
One of the most important things I think we've learned from Mr. Cummings' leaked WhatsApp messages is that it seems the government's been significantly influenced by polling. I fear we'll have had a real doom loop here between polling and policy making, which has driven us into a disastrous position. We now must not tolerate lockdowns perpetually on the table. We must not tolerate a situation going on where we and the police are unclear about what the law is and how it should be applied. I mean, imagine that you can hug but not dance. What madness is this? We can't tolerate a situation anymore in which a government social scientist told the author of the book A State of Fear that the government had used unethical techniques of behavioural science to deliver a policy which he said, in his own words, smacks of totalitarianism. We have transformed this society for the worse. We have put in place a culture and habits which will take years to shake off, culture and habits which distance people from one another and diminish their quality of life, the quality of relationships that they have with one another. High streets are in danger of becoming haunted alleyways. We're in danger of hollowing out and destroying the entertainment industry, much that makes life worth living. Today's vote will go through, it's a foregone conclusion, but as one of my other right honourable friends said, was he implied, if the Conservative Party does not stand for freedom under the rule of law, in my view, it stands for nothing. We have got to have a turning point. We've got to recapture a spirit of freedom.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
A mission of equity. You know the mission of equity? Can you define it? Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer can define it. He knows.
So, spirit of freedom. And that's what we need. We need an endpoint. I think the endpoint is coming close. My personal opinion is that this next date that they've given us for our next so-called Freedom Day, I suspect that will be that promise will be broken, and I think the British public will be pushed further and further to breaking points. And the quicker we say no to this, to the government and to its extended powers, the quicker we can get back to normality. Okay, this is Chris Farmer from UK Liberty. Thank you very much for your time. Good night. I'll hand you over to Kevin Burns.
Hi, Chris. Thanks very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Very informative, as always. We've got one person live now on the call. I think that's Peter. If you have any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away. And I'll be keeping an eye on the YouTube chat for questions as well. I've just sent a link out to a couple of people that couldn't get in as well. So
yeah, no, the thing was playing up to begin with. Yeah, no, again, obviously very well put together presentation. I don't think I can really. I suppose there's no argument against it from a point of view of lockdown. I think, I don't know, I suppose like my only thoughts on it really are from a wider party point of view. I don't know, my only worry with this, I suppose, this direction is that once lockdown ends, which like, well, I mean, I know it possibly may never, but like at some point it surely will, is that people will lose any political will to act against it once it goes. So I know we have to, like, I suppose, like, you have to strike while the iron is hot, and you have to, like, kind of, you have to target something that is directly, like, in relation to people at that current moment. But I suppose it's kind of like, I don't know, I suppose, like, thinking just more long term is that we do have to, I suppose, base our ideas on more than simply an anti-lockdown party. Like, we can't be the anti-lockdown party. We have to be the liberty party. So I suppose it's kind of, I mean, what Chris is obviously correct about, and what he does very well, is he shows how anti-lockdown and liberty coincide, and how they marry together. But yeah, I suppose in relation to this, kind of, I suppose I can't really, like, kind of, I can't disagree with anything. Non-compliance has to be the way forward, because I don't think reasoned argument really works anymore, because I think the argument originally wasn't done from a reasoned perspective. It's emotional. So yeah, no, yeah. I suppose I haven't really there's no really questions there, but just say, like, yeah, no, fair enough. Like, let's push it. Let's see where it goes.
In reference to your point about it's got to be more than anti-COVID, you're absolutely right, and we've already had this discussion before, where we've put down a set of principles there, which I put back on the screen, which we called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Nations. You might remember that from a couple of weeks ago. But it seems to me that, this isn't what we've got on the screen there. The alternative is not the issue of the day. The issue of the day is the fact that we're still in lockdown 18 months after the 3-week lockdown started, and until that changes, this is the thing this is the thing that's in the room. It's the elephant in the room. We need to sort the elephant in the room. And the only way that I can, you can't walk around arguing with people, and I don't think there's much point joining protests in London and to stand next to people who you already agree with. I think the only way that you can persuade people is by effectively role modeling the correct response, which is to walk into Tesco's and act normally. Just act normally, for Christ's sake, because acting normally has now become abnormal, and people have forgotten what normal is. So we just have to act normally, as life as it was before this nonsense started, and that's what I think is the way forward. I've now got a couple of my friends taking their mask off. My friend Marco has now given up on the mask. He went into town the other day for the first time and took his mask off, and he said he felt really good for it. And my daughter, Becky, who's 30, she went into Tesco's the other day without her mask for the first time. And when one of the people in the shop, when he saw her, took his mask off. And so the mask is a symbol of civility. That's how I see it. The mask has no medical purpose at all, because the virus is a submicroscopic organism. It's not even an organism, but it's a submicroscopic entity. If you can breathe in, you can breathe in a virus. The only thing that a mask does is it collects bacterium. So it's ineffective as a virus stopper, and it's dangerous to the wearer. The only reason that we're doing it is because the government tells us to, and the reason they want to tell us to is it's a visible signal of compliance. That's the way I say it. It's something they can track, something they can easily check to see whether their messaging is effective or ineffective. So I see that the mask is a signal that we either give or we don't give to the government. His feedback message as to how well the government is messaging. And go ahead.
The only thing I would say to that is, did you see Sadiq Khan's statement about masks on the tube? I think it was like yesterday or the day before. It was quite funny, actually. Like, it was quite a good sleight of hand within an interview. So he said something, because they've come out and said there's like been the leaks that they basically said they're going to move mask making to mandatory, not mandatory. They're going to make mask wearing voluntary on the 19th of July, apparently with this lifting. And Sadiq Khan gave an interview, I think it was in the Express, where he said, I don't believe this is the correct thing to do. We should follow the science on how they limit transmission. Yeah. And then directly underneath, he said, evidence shows that they increase people's confidence to travel. So that it was quite funny to me, because I was like, okay, so we are admitting that they are, you haven't provided any evidence there for transmission. You basically said the evidence is on confidence. Now, I think that is A, quite funny, and B, kind of is quite interesting from how to maybe display to people that what they're complying with is very little to do with health and far more to do with political maneuvering.
Exactly.
And it's just understand. I think what we have to be careful with, and I say this because I've had these discussions with lots of people, is that I think attacking people's fear doesn't work, because fear is an emotional response. And I think trying to, if I go to someone and say, your fear is irrational and therefore nonsense, is less likely to persuade them than to say, I can understand why you're anxious, but here are maybe a possible reasons why. Now, why you shouldn't be. Now, it's quite funny because obviously I think, like, I normally dislike pragmatism, but I think in this instance, I think from a political viewpoint, and obviously I'm not a political mastermind, so I might be completely wrong, but the old saying, like, we attract more, is it flies with honey than vinegar? So I think it's kind of like, yes, a lot of the restrictions around COVID are nonsense, and we know they're nonsense. And I think the majority of people have actually come to the conclusion that they are nonsense. But I think to become outright in denial of a government messaging is still a step too far for a lot of people in their own mind. So I would say that we shift our messaging possibly towards a more understanding vein, and we kind of go with it as to say, I understand why you're anxious, but we have to start living as we did, because these are the reasons why. And I think as a political messaging, like, I really liked, Kevin, that thing that you put up on Twitter the other day, where you said the only way to solve the housing crisis, the only way to solve this crisis, the only way to solve that crisis is limited government. Because that's acknowledging, whether we, for example, agree that there's a climate crisis, whether we agree that there's, a drug problem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's giving people that message that, okay, look, if you think there is a crisis, that's completely fair. Like, you're entitled to that opinion, but our solution is effectively the same. We still have the same solution, and that solution is limited government. And I think with this messaging, like with the people's pushback, it doesn't matter whether the people think that the restrictions are nonsense or needed. We have to explain why they are illegitimate to begin with. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? But we can do that by not saying that they're nonsense, or not saying that, oh, you are stupid for believing this. Because, lots of people believe completely insane things, because that's the world that we live in. And I think it's very, very difficult to separate that. And so I think the messaging should be more along the lines of, look, we can understand this, we can understand that, but it's time to stand up and it's time to start living your life again. And I don't know if that, I don't know, do you know what I mean? That's maybe just like, that's just where my thoughts lie.
My messaging is, when I'm out and about, is strictly non-verbal. I don't think you can argue with people. It's not my job to walk into the Tesco's and start arguing with people. My message is strictly non-verbal. I walk in and I do my shopping and I walk out again. That's it. And people are attracted by that or repelled by that. You can tell by the look on their face which one it is. Some people are like, oh, I wish I had the bottle to do that. Other people are, how dare you walk in here with no mask on? So I have no intention of arguing with anybody. I'm just going to role model the correct response. And I think that is the correct way. I think every time I've been in the last couple of weeks, there's been a few more with no masks on, and we kind of wink to each other, you know, and hey, we had a little meeting of 3 of us in one of the aisles next to the Coca-Cola. 3 people with no mask on, talking to each other. We even gave each other a hug and swapped telephone numbers. We became a little gang of 3. But it used to be just me, and now it's a gang of 3 of us, you know. So I'm expecting next week to be 6, and then the week after that to be 12. Once we get to 20 people in Morrison's, I think the whole thing will collapse like a pack of cards. It won't take many. I think there are many people out there looking for social permission from others to take their masks off. They want to take their mask off. You've already said that most people have come to the conclusion this is a waste of time. The only thing that's holding it together is social compliance. And they're looking for role models, people who aren't complying. Like my daughter, not like me, because I'm too old, I'm too ugly. But if beautiful little Becky walks in, she's 30 years old, she's clean, she's tidy, she's intelligent, she's professional. She is a great role model for other young ladies and other young men to just take their masks off. So I think you're right about not arguing with people. You never tell people they're wrong. You never tell people they're stupid or misguided, because who are you? I mean, they don't know who we are, and we might be wrong anyway. So all we do is we role model correct responses, because this is being done with social pressure, and it can be undone with social, not pressure, but social permission, rather than social pressure, social permission. So that's the way I see the way forward. It's very simple. Just live your life and let other people see you having more fun than they are. And if they ask you, if they do ask me, I say, because viruses can get around that thing that you've got in the mouth, and all that thing is doing is stopping oxygen getting in, and you're breathing through the bacterium-ridden rag. It's not good for your health. So don't wear it for me, because they say, oh, yes, but I'm wearing it to protect you. I say, well, don't protect me, protect yourself, take your mask off. So that's if they do ask me, but most people don't ask you, do they? Because you're just in there doing your thing. Anyway, I think I've said everything I want to say.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Peter. Ryan, did you have anything you'd like to add?
I'll just say you can't. Yes, like actions are what like philosophy sort of demonstrates. You can't say I believe something without acting. I agree with you there. You can't underlay the importance of a good little slogan. Don't tread on me. Is the as soon as you say that, you know what the topic is. So I think having a good little thing to say to people. One thing I thought of was why aren't you wearing your mask? Well, make liars keep their promises. If you say something like that, something short that makes sense. It can get the message across quite quickly, whilst also demonstrating action. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. That you need to do that. I think I saw Michael Malice said now he goes out and he wears the mask on his wrist. He's saying I have it, but I'm choosing not to wear it because I think it's ridiculous.
That's even more powerful, isn't it? I think to have it on your wrist
and just say I'm not.
Statement,
and just say I'm not taking part in it.
Yeah, that's slightly more belligerent, isn't it? Because if you've got no mask on, people might say to themselves, oh, he's probably got an exemption for his health. There might be something wrong with him, especially if you wear one of those little tags, that people wear. But if you put a mask on your wrist, you are outright saying, I don't believe in this. I've got a mask. I could wear it. I'm not going to wear it. So I think that's I might start doing that. I've never thought of doing that, but I think that's an even more powerful statement. It's definitely more belligerent, though. You're more likely to get somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, why are you not wearing that mask?" So you are attracting negative attention to yourself when you do that. But maybe that's the time to do that. But I think subtle, slowly, no, what is it? Slowly wins the race in the end. Tortoise and the hare. But I like that idea of the face mask on the wrist. But you see lots of people with face masks on their chin. What's that about? So that's a chicken way, that one. Face mask on the wrist, good idea.
Okay.
I'm done.
Anyone else got anything to say, or should we wrap it up there? Or was that you, Peter?
Yeah, sorry, just one quick little thing. If someone wanted to wear a mask, I don't know why. If they did, they are allowed. They can though.
Yeah,
As in, I think that's kind of. I think all I mean by that is that kind of like, I think within our, enthusiasm, and quite rightly, our determined kind of like, and I suppose our just anger towards, like, for example, like kind of compulsory or mandatory orders. We do have to, I suppose, just remember that within, for example, the "don't tread on me" idea is that if somebody wanted to wear a mask, they are perfectly entitled to.
Of course.
And I'm just being that buffer to like kind of just remember that kind of like, first and foremost, people are allowed to act as they want.
I don't think anybody here is anti-mask. COVID is a fact. Does kill people. We're not anti-mask. We're anti-coercion. It's coercive force, and the psychops are using psychological operations and misinformation, social pressure. It's the coercive nature of this government that you can't say, well, we believe we're in coercion, we're just going to coerce people not to wear masks. No, that's not the answer. It's anti-coercion. It's nothing to do really with masks. Masks, as I said earlier, masks is simply the obvious thing that is right in front of everybody. It's there to keep us in state of fear. We're all scaring ourselves to death. And it's a visual. If the masks weren't there, there'd be nothing to see. You'd have policemen saying, "Move along, nothing to see, nothing to see." But when there is something to see, then you've got something to think about. And it keeps it in mind. Everywhere you go, it's a visual reminder that there's a pandemic and we're all in deadly danger. Take the masks off, this thing will evaporate. And that's why I don't think the masks will disappear in a month's time. I'm absolutely certain they'll find a reason to keep the masks. So the mask is simply a slogan. Effectively, it's a visual slogan that we see every day, everywhere we go.
To agree with Peter in a way, I was reading some Stoicism, and Seneca said something along the lines of, "No action is honorable if it's not freely made." So if someone has been a rational and reasonable human being and come to their logical conclusion that wearing a mask is good for them, then what they're doing is, in a sense, honorable. They've used their rational reason, and they're acting of their own free determination. But it's the coercion. I think that's the main point to get across, that you're not an honorable human being if you're just being coerced to do good, because it's not good in a way. It's not honorable.
No.
Yeah.
And above all, we are honorable gentlemen. At least I am.
Like to think so.
I don't know about you three, but I am a very honourable person.
Of course, we're all honourable persons. Okay, thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you so much for letting us into your lives.
Yeah.
And I'll be back.
Okay, so next one is July the 8th. Just for the people that are on the actual live call at the moment, you don't need to book anymore. We'll be doing YouTube streams, so you can just go on there and ask questions via chat. If you do want to be on the live call so that you're actually in the videos that people are watching, just send me an email and I'll send you a link like I did tonight for you to, and then you can come on. That'd be particularly helpful if you've got something to say on the subject that's being discussed on the evening, rather than just coming on to sit and listen, which you can just do comfortably from YouTube. This is to any YouTube viewers. If you want any details on the people's pushback, then all the details will be in the description below. And you can also subscribe to our channel whilst you're here. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.